it's like the Lord's kindness that he like lets us have the things that we work so hard towards, just to show us sometimes that like they're not going to fulfill or satisfy us like only he can. And so
Wow.
I did chase like a success-based gospel for so long, thinking once I got the internship, once I got the job, I would be like fulfilled, you know. And then it's like my first day as a news reporter, like my literal dream job. I like cried the way home because I was like, dang, I like made it, but it was like something was still missing, you know?
Mm.
And so even from day one, I knew like I was going to have to learn how to balance like caring about my career and like wanting to do it well and finding joy in it, but also knowing that it's not like eternal for me.
However, you have a Mexican who learned English and is trying to minister to you in your tongue, in your native tongue. You listen more because you understand that this person tried to understand your language and learn your language. You get a level of respect and credibility to what you're saying, because you didn't just start by trying to convince them with your own culture. You actually became like them. Like Paul says, to a Jew I became a Jew, to a Gentile you're becoming like them in order to create those bridges that can hopefully allow you to share the message, the good news.
With me having to relearn, reprocess, rethink what sex was, that was like taking a part of my identity away.
Just because you may need to seek help or you may be in transition and things may not be right, it doesn't necessarily mean that your marriage is bad.
Marriage is a roller coaster ride that never ends.
From the twists of having children, to the turns of overly involved parents, or the highs of buying a new home, to the lows of unexpected lifestyle changes.
Marriage is dope, but let's be honest, fam. Marriage really be tiring.
Welcome to the Left Hand Gang podcast, hosted by Jazz and Spoon.
Yo, what's good, y'all? It is the Left Hand Gang with
What
your
up,
boy
gang?
Spoon and Jazz. How you living, baby mama?
Hey, I'm good. I'm hanging out with my friends tonight,
Hanging
so
out
I
with
feel
your
really excited.
Hey,
Yeah.
you just told everybody we got guests already.
Oh,
You ain't
sorry.
say nothing. You just.
Well, we're gonna get there, but you asked how I was feeling, so like I had to
I mean, you
explain
could
why.
have just said I'm feeling good.
Because you were gonna ask why.
Oh well. You don't know me. You don't know my life.
Like a little bit.
You don't know me.
A little bit.
Nah, but yeah, we do have some friends in here. Before we get into that, we just want to say thank you to the people who've been supporting,
Yes.
buying hoodies, and
Yes.
who've just been sewing
Yeah.
into all the different ways, because we were able to upgrade.
Yes.
God,
Y'all.
thank you, Jesus. We were able to get the sound better, and we just thank y'all so much for pouring into the Left Hand Gang, so we can upgrade the sound and get some more lights.
Yeah.
So that way we can do better for y'all. So this thing can sound a little more clear, a little bit more professional. I ain't no professional, but we just want the sound and look good for y'all. So we thank y'all
Thank y'all so
for that.
much. Yeah.
Thank y'all so much. Now, back to what you were saying. Who we got?
I was gonna say his nickname, and I need to address this man as a whole adult who's a husband now and not keep calling him his college name. But he will forever be Pepe in my heart.
Man.
We have Pedro and Katie here with us. Well, okay, so they're in Thailand. That's why we're Zooming. And so it's morning for them. It's 9 a.m. for them on Friday, and it is 9 p.m. on Thursday for us.
Yeah, they're in the future.
Yeah, I think that's kind of cool. That's so dope. How God likes,
I know.
you know?
Man, my dog.
We don't get some of his birthdays, which is great.
Oh,
You're right.
I never thought of that.
Yeah. Sometimes, actually, we miss a few sometimes. So, oops. Glad to be here, though. Seriously, thanks for having us.
No problem. So, Drew, Katie, y'all kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, we know, but tell everybody else about you a little bit.
Yeah, we're Pedro and Katie. We've been married for 3 years now.
Bro, it's been 3 years?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It'll be, what'd you say, Katie?
January.
It was right before COVID, so 3 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, January.
it was.
Wow.
January 20th, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it literally flew by.
It's weird. Yeah. So married 3 years, been overseas for the last going on 8 months, 7 months. Yeah, and trying to create ministry and see what the Lord is doing and how we can be a part of here in Thailand. Yeah, before we moved overseas, Katie worked in the news, and then she did marketing for beat and bow companies up in Lubbock, and I was in full-time ministry at a local church in Lubbock, Texas. So yeah, that's I guess a quick intro.
Yeah, that was good. Do you have
Unless
a
you
question?
want
I'm just like, my man's been married for 3 years.
I know that really.
I'm just like
I thought
stuck.
it was less than that. That's crazy.
God, that time flew by. It was literally right before COVID.
y'all's kid is about to be one.
I know.
I know.
It's crazy, dog. It's crazy. So, like, how did y'all meet? What's the story on that? How y'all meet?
How we met.
You know, at weddings when some people have like those signs that say like it was always you, you know, I always joke that our sign would say you finally wore me down, because like it definitely wasn't like a from the beginning it was always you. It was
True.
it took a little bit of work from the sky.
Okay.
Man, persistence.
Persistence kills resistance.
We met in a small group at our church in college when we were sophomores. We were young. We were 20 when we met.
Yeah.
And we were just a part of this big group, like best community I've ever been a part of. Just like really did life together. So much fun. We all hung out all summer. So we were just like really good friends. I could tell that Dro liked me, but I was uninterested because he was
I wasn't walking with the Lord.
He wasn't walking with the Lord. He
Yeah.
wasn't mature. I enjoyed spending time with him and I liked him, but
I was very ratchet.
I could never commit and I didn't know why. And so looking back, I know that that was like the Lord's protection, you know, but yeah.
Yeah. Fast forward to 2018. So we met, what, 2017, 2016?
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to 2018, I came to faith. I would say that the Lord really changed me and my heart desires. I get invited to go on this short-term mission trip to China, and they told me it was just a trip to China. I was like, who doesn't want to go on a trip to China? Like, heck yeah. They said it was free too, so I was like, of course.
Free trip
That
to
sounds
China.
like Pedro.
Why not?
Late
For 8 weeks.
For 8 weeks. Yeah, it was an 8-week trip.
That's a long trip.
I ended up saying, okay, sure, I'll go. I ended up going on the trip. She was part of that trip as well. And while we were on that trip, right before that, I would say we started like having that conversation. We should actually like date or whatever this weird thing is, kind of define the relationship. And because we were both going on that trip, we had heard of the church didn't really send couples because what if they broke up and then that cost the whole trip?
For like 6 weeks.
So we were like, oh, let's just redefine the relationship when we get back. But while we were overseas,
like that was gonna work, right?
while we were in China, I was just like, what are they gonna do? Put us in a plane and send us back because we started dating? So I decided to actually ask her out, and we started dating in China in 2018. And right before we like started dating officially, quote unquote, we had a conversation of like, hey, like I feel like the Lord is pulling me. Some of my people say call. He's to do overseas long-term cross-cultural ministry. Is that something that you feel the Lord is also doing in your heart? And she said yes. So as soon as we began dating, we had in our heads a trajectory of wanting to do cross-cultural ministry and end up overseas someday, somehow, doing something. We didn't know or have any idea what that could look like. So when we came back from that trip, we both in separate ways began to take steps to be sent by our church. And now we're here. So it's been sweet, actually, how the Lord has orchestrated all that. But yeah, it was a lot of persistence on my part. But she would give in, and then I'll say like, "You're just playing with me," and she'd be like, "No," and then I'll start talking to another girl, and she'd be like, "Wait a second, no, come back."
Oh man.
It was messy, but
It was
we
definitely.
made it.
You said it was
Lord.
what? It was messy.
It was messy a little bit.
And those sometimes those are the best relationships, you know.
Right.
Our start was messy,
Oh yeah, it was.
but look at us now, baby.
It
I
was
love
really
you.
messy.
I listened to that podcast.
Oh yeah, it was a hot mess. We thank
We
God
thank
for
God.
grace. Thank
We,
God for
we
grace.
thank God.
Yeah.
So I love that y'all like separately, God spoke to you separately about doing ministry overseas and how y'all were able to come together on that, because that was something we were talking about. Like, who did God give the vision to first? And did someone have to submit and say, you know what, hey, I'm going to walk away from my life here and follow and submit to you? But I love that you guys were both on the same page. I love when God does that. I'm sure that made the transition a little bit easier. Katie, what has it been like submitting to your husband in a new environment? Or has there been a difference?
That's a good question. We have conversations about that. Not a lot, but it's like, I think we're always trying to figure out what that looks like. I think naturally I like to be led, like whether that's like in a work relationship or like in a marriage, I guess. And so I don't know that there's been a huge difference other than here. I feel like we have to make so many more decisions. And I'm trying to like even think of an example where it's played out. Can you think of anything? I think even in the decision to come to Thailand specifically, I was like more interested in exploring other options. And for whatever reason, Dro just had in his gut, like Thailand was the move for us. Not that I was against coming here, but I think that's just like the most tangible time I can think of where I was like, okay, well, like I'm conflicted, but you have peace about something. And if I trust that like you've got the spirit in you, then I can trust that I'm trusting Jesus by like submitting or agreeing with what you think we should do. So that's been like the biggest thing. But since coming here, I don't know that it's looked any different than before, other than there's just like more decisions to make. And so we just have more conversations.
I think when you look at submission, and I know you didn't ask me.
No, you go ahead.
Go ahead. Drop the gems.
You look at submission, and people that have like a wrong feeling towards that will say, well, why does the wife have to submit to the husband? But it's like a lot of times when you look at scriptures and what I think God is portraying is like the husband, if he is in communion with the Lord, his decisions are not what's in the best interest for me as a husband, but what's in the best interest for my wife. So I think a lot of the decisions that we're making, or that you can say I'm making, are based on like, hey, what is in the best interest for us, but also how is my wife going to feel loved and cared for by this decision. It can go from simple as like a food choice that we're, I know y'all probably get like, oh, what do you want to eat today? I don't know, you pick.
Oh my
I'm like,
gosh.
second, So, but it can go from that or all the way to a big decision like moving overseas and choosing a location, or trying to discern what's the best location. But I think submission is, when I look at that and I look at my wife submitting to me, I look at it in a way of like, what is in the best interest for her and for us as a family. Not all the time, like what's in it for me, And
I mean, like at the end of the day, like if we're like going back and forth about something and a decision like has to be made, like how we're going to invest our time or what opportunities we're going to pursue, it's like somebody's going to have to give. And so if I can trust that like the Lord will speak to him in prayer or conviction, then it's like that's how we can make a decision, and I can trust that, But I don't think it's like we've never had like a big issue with that.
Yeah.
So, but Katie, you had a whole job and everything set up, like
a whole career.
You had a
like
whole
life.
career. You went to school. You did it the textbook way. You go to school, you take the classes, and you do the internship, and then you get the career job, and then you just say, you know what? I'm going to go overseas
and not use 95%.
100% of the stuff that I learned in class to go do missionary work. Like, what was that like? Dropping everything to follow your husband because he had peace about going overseas.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like the Lord's kindness that he like lets us have the things that we work so hard towards, just to show us sometimes that like they're not going to fulfill or satisfy us like only he can. And so I did chase like a success-based gospel for so long, thinking once I got the internship, once I got the job, I would be like fulfilled, you know? And then it's like my first day as a news reporter, like my literal dream job, I like cried the way home because I was like, dang, I like made it, but it was like something was still missing, you know? And so even from day one, I knew like I was going to have to learn how to balance like caring about my career and like wanting to do it well and finding joy in it, but also knowing that it's not like eternal for me. And I actually got a lot of like pushback and like even missed opportunities at my first job out of college because I would tell people that and they would be like, what, you're not willing to do everything possible to climb the ladder? Like you're not willing to stab your coworkers in the back to get an opportunity? And like, I was like, no, like I left my job and I want to do it well, but I'm not going to put it before Jesus or my husband or whatever. And so it was hard when I came to terms with that for the first time because I was like, dang, I worked so hard for this. Like, why isn't it fulfilling like I thought it would? But it also gave me, like the Lord gave me just a great perspective from day one that if it wasn't forever, like that's okay because he's like asked more from me than to be just like consumed with a career, you know? So it was hard at the beginning, but when it came time to move or to leave that job, it was like easy because God was giving me a conviction to move overseas to do that kind of ministry. And so I was excited to step into what he had for me. And honestly, like looking back, I haven't like missed doing traditional work, which is like interesting because I did find a lot of identity in it. It's like I miss my friends and like I miss being creative and doing those things, but I don't wish that I was doing that over what I'm doing now. So yeah.
Wow. So the
That was so
conviction,
beautiful.
the conviction
beautiful
that God placed in your heart was greater than the career that you worked so hard for.
100%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
we could just stop right there.
Yeah.
No offense, Pedro, but like we're done.
Yeah, we got to say that.
That's good. I'm usually the one that talks a lot, so this is great.
That was so beautiful.
Man. Yeah, I didn't even know all of that.
And honestly, I really feel like as you were talking, Katie, I felt like I could resonate with a lot of that. So
yeah,
just quick recap. I used to be a teacher and left the classroom this past school year. And I knew my first year of teaching, like this isn't what I was going to do forever, but I had no idea what was going to come next. And I was like, yo, I can't do this until retirement. Like there's no way. And I remember, you know, it was just like, I went to school for this. Like I did everything right, but I'm not happy in my position. Like I loved the kids, you know, and I loved what I did, but it just wasn't enough and it drained me so much. And so being able to walk away from that and do ministry and be a mom, stay-at-home mom has been so fulfilling. It's still a job in itself, but I wouldn't trade it. And like you said, like I miss my friends. I miss the kids that I've taught. I miss those experiences, but not more than being able to serve my ministry more, not more than being able to serve my family more. And who would have thought, you know, like when you think about it, you're like, I would have never expected God to bring me to this point. Like I knew God was great and I know he has so much for me. But when you started out the first year in your career, you never could have seen this. And so I know exactly what that feeling is. And you're right. It does make it easy to walk away. And even in the tough times, you're not sure how ends are going to be met all the time, but you're like, I know that they are. Like, I know my God is greater than everything that I'm going through. So
yeah, that's super relatable. And I think on another hand too, it's like, it's almost easier to give up things that are hard. So like my first job out of college was really toxic. And so it was almost easier to be like, yes, I'll leave this behind to like follow Jesus to the other side of the world. But then I stepped into a different job doing marketing in a Christian-based company, just like so great. And I loved it so much. And so it's almost like the longer we stayed, the harder it got, because there's like more good things about it. And so there's always the balance too of like leaving a good thing for another good thing, you know, and it's like trusting that God will show you which one is like the right thing, you know. It's like hard to make decisions like that sometimes, but the longer we stayed there, I don't want it to just like sound like it was easy to go, because it's like we get deeper into friendships, our friends start like having kids and like buying houses, and we're like, dang, we want to do that too. And so I was almost at the point I was like, we need to go now, or else like I'm never gonna want to leave, you know, because like all my friends are here and doing the next thing. And so there is that element of it too that I think made leaving hard, but still worth it.
Yeah, I think we left at a very transitional like phase in our lives. It's like you're out of college, so you weeded out those friends that were college friends, and now you're, you know, deepening relationships with the people that are going to be like your friends for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And you end it. You're like, actually, we're moving overseas.
Actually,
yeah,
we can't be friends anymore. Just
it becomes harder, you know.
Yeah,
more intentional.
Yeah.
So, Dro, how did that make you feel as the husband? Like your wife dropping everything to follow the God in you. How did that make you feel?
Nobody's ever asked me that. So obviously, I think in the same breath that she trusts me, I trust the Spirit in her as well, you know, to understand. And I think I walked and I was with her through all those moments and hardships and even fun times. And so her time as a news reporter and seeing how much it was taken out of her, I mean, walking with that and seeing that I was okay with her walking away from that. And then her entering into a good, healthy workspace, like I found that I knew she enjoyed it, and I was like, hey, I was actually pushing her to like stay there longer in a weird way. But yeah, when it came time for us to move, and I think we were both sad and excited, but we felt that this was like a long time coming, and we felt like this is where the Lord was leading us. So, I mean, I felt joyful. I felt glad that she's my wife. I felt excited for the next season of our lives. Yeah, I think it was just what was next for us. And though it was hard in circumstances, I think we both knew that was going to happen eventually. It was just a matter of when. So when it came down to it, we were excited and we're like, okay, we're ready for the next thing.
And I think one of the best things about marriage is like God never lets us both feel like down at the same time. It's like on the days that he's feeling like, screw this, let's just stay in America forever, I'm like, no, like we are convicted to do this. And then on the days when I'm like, I want to stay and like have kids and build a house, he's like, no, like God has called us to like something different, you know? And so
it's true.
Yeah, I love that like God does that. I don't know if that's just our marriage, but it feels like we're always able to balance each other out when we're like having doubts or whatever, because we're both individually convicted of our calling, you know?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So y'all are obviously in Thailand trying to learn this new language. Well, it's not new, but it's new to y'all. Has that how was that translating over into ministry?
Yeah, I mean, language is crucial. There's been looking at studies or even talking to missionaries that spent, you know, decades in the mission field, who on both ends, both some who enter into the field and don't learn language, do ministry right away, and then some who enter into the field, do language hard for the first couple of years and then do ministry. And both will tell you that the most beneficial and most fruitful ministry would be to learn language. The guy who didn't do it will encourage his teammates to be like, actually, don't be like us, go learn language. It's as important as somebody going to America and let's just say you speak Spanish, Spoon. A Mexican goes to America, to your house, and is trying to evangelize to you in Spanish. Though you understand it and know it, it kind of like it's a slap in the face, you know. However, you know, you have a Mexican who learn English and is trying to minister to you in your tongue, in your native tongue. You listen more because you understand that this person tried to understand your language and learn your language. You get a level of respect and credibility to what you're saying, because you didn't just start by, you know, trying to convince them with your own culture. You actually became like them, you know, like Paul says, to a Jew I became a Jew, to a Gentile you're becoming like them in order to create those bridges that can hopefully allow you to share the message, the good news. So I think it's crucial.
And even like if we were in America having a conversation with somebody who also speaks English, who's not a Christian, and I start using words like sanctified and
regenerated,
and it's like those are things that, like, in the same language somebody might not understand. And so imagine trying to have a heart level conversation with somebody in a different culture who has a different language, who may speak a little English, but when it comes time to talk about the things that are actually going to help them understand the gospel, you're not going to be able to talk about it unless you've invested in language. And so I think there's just so many misconceptions about long-term missionaries versus people who go on mission trips and are like, oh yeah, we saw like 5 people saved. And then we're like, we're just going to class every day. But even in the 6 months we've been learning language, our conversations with our Thai friends have deepened so much. And so I think we really see the benefit and long-term necessity of the long-term investment if we want to do ministry well, you know.
Yeah,
I never thought about that side of it, but I love that. I have like 3 questions. 2 of them are like in one. That's how my brain works. So one of them is, was there like a playbook or something? Like when you guys said like, yes, we're going to go overseas and save lives for Jesus, what do we do next? Like, is it like, you know, maybe there's like organizations that guide you, or did you like I remember seeing like y'all sold everything, right? Like, and then I remember like reading y'all's emails and it was like, all right, we're doing this next. And like, how did you know what to do and in what order so that you weren't just like out here stranded and homeless?
It's a great question. I think we're like so in the bubble that it's like, we're just like, yeah, we know what to do next. But it's like, it makes a lot of sense that people don't know.
I mean, I learned a lot through the job that I was doing before we moved overseas. Part of my job as a mobilization coach was to help people discern their call and discern like if God was calling them overseas. And then if they were feeling or they had that conviction, then I would help them get plugged in with the right people to be able to move overseas. So that helped us a lot because we had a lot of connections. But yeah, for the normal person who's doing that, I can see how that could be a challenge. But thankfully, we have a lot of help. We have an organization that we're part of that
we're employed by an organization.
That helps us with a lot of the logistical things. But then we also have, our church has a ascending pipeline that allows missionaries to have like a transition, kind of like you said, a playbook, step by step on what's next. So when we came back, I mean, going back to 2018, when we came back from that trip and I said we started taking steps, we entered that pipeline of what it would mean for us to be sent by our church. Trainings,
a training that lasted 9 months, like a group, you know. So I think like people who may hear this and are like, I want to move overseas. I think it's so important. Don't try to do it on your own. You need to be a part of a community. You need to have a healthy church sending and supporting you. And so if that's not your church, there's many churches and organizations that can connect you. But we have essentially been in training for like 4 years before we actually got to come overseas.
What are some of the things that you guys learned in that training, or just even over the 4 years, that you didn't realize were going to be a part of this work?
So the the first thing that we did was what we call DMT. It's a 10-week basically group. Doesn't take a lot of time out of your day, but we did it while we were in college. And in it, you just learn how to share your faith. I think Christians in America and all over the world, I think it's easy for us to be a Christian, but then it's like, what does it look like to share our faith? That can be a little bit more challenging. So we just learned that basic tools on how to share our faith. And after you do that, and you know, there's people that are like, actually, like, I want more of this. Like, this was good for my soul, and like, I want to learn more. Then you enter into a 9-month group. So in those 9 months, what you're doing is you end up living in a close proximity, and you mimic life overseas. By mimic life overseas, you live close to each other. You share the gospel weekly with people. You like set time aside on your weekly basis to go evangelize, and you get on healthy rhythms of, you know, Bible reading, prayer as a team. And you do that for 9 months, and you just grow and learn. And we get to read a lot of tools and books about ministry overseas. And then after that, those 9 months end, and you're like, I feel like the Lord is calling me overseas. Then you get connected to teams overseas, and you begin those conversations on like giftings and like, hey, how can, you know, this is what I feel like the Lord's gifted me in. How can I benefit your team? And then you get options on where you should land, and you start discerning and praying like, where should I end up? And then you entered into a season of support racing, where you raise the funds and you do any organizational training that your organization requires, and then you're sent to that team.
I think sorry.
Did I miss something?
Well, I was going to say one of the, like, a specific tool or thing we learned during that training was about conflict resolution, which maybe I wasn't expecting would be part of the curriculum, you know?
Yeah.
But that's actually like one of the leading reasons people move back to the States after being on the field as a missionary is team conflict. They just can't get along or move past things with the people that they're supposed to be doing ministry with. And so as part of our training, we did like role playing, we did peace pursuit, like different ways to learn how to about potential conflicts, and then how to, like, in a healthy way, move past them. And so that's maybe like one random thing that we did that I was surprised by, but I think was helpful.
I'm just in awe. Literally, like, y'all could just like talk about, I feel like we may have even deviated from some of the things that we wanted to touch on, but like, I'm just so interested in y'all's lives, man. Like, I was really following you, Pedro. Like, that's a lot. Because I really thought, I mean, that's just where I am. Like, oh, you know, I feel God calling me and I want to go help people overseas and I want to share the faith. And like, I don't know where I would go next, but I just thought it was kind of like you just do it. But I love that there's,
you just like hop on a plane and you're like,
I'm out, guys.
I think that's what our families thought too before we explained it. Like, I'm like, I promise, it's like legit.
It's legit. Pedro, did you have to do any like convincing, I guess is the word, like to her parents, like, hey, you know I said I'm going to take care of your daughter, and you know I took her as my wife, but like now I'm going to take her out of the States. Did you have, what was that conversation like?
Convincing is actually a great word. When I went to ask, I got the privilege to ask her dad for her hand in marriage. And when I did that, the only question he asked is, how are you going to support my daughter? And at the time, I was raising funds to do mobilization.
I was a sugar mom at the time.
Yeah, because I had just graduated, which is hilarious to think about. And my answer was like, well, I'm employed and this is how I make money, or this is how I get paid. And I think that was the only convincing. Thankfully, her mom loves me. Her mom's a Christian. Her dad's not, unfortunately, but her mom's a Christian, and she understands a lot of what we were doing and what I was doing at the time. And
also my parents are immigrants as well. And so they see moving to another country as like just part of life. Like our families live all over the world. So I think
it wasn't hard.
They weren't like, why are you taking her away? They're sad, but they're like, that's part of life, is moving somewhere else to do.
Aren't your people from your family from Australia?
Scotland.
She has an
I do have family in Australia too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
so
wow.
dope. Yeah, like they came to the wedding. You know, I DJ'd the wedding, so
Yeah.
they had like their kilts and all that stuff on. It was dope.
Really?
Yeah,
You didn't tell me that part.
you should have been there.
Oh, that's so
Should've been
cool.
there.
You should have been there.
Why wasn't I there? It was a legit reason, and I was hurt about it too.
I don't know.
I don't
You
remember.
should have been there.
I don't know.
It was great.
So I wouldn't say it was a lot of convincing.
Explain.
Yeah, I think it was just explaining. But it was, like I said, it was. I mean, you clearly just heard the process. It was not just like one day out of the blank, hey, we're moving. So I think it was constantly. They knew that it was coming to, and we got the privilege to spend like 2 months before we moved overseas. We lived under their roof, and that was really sweet. And just I think we bonded a lot as a family. So yeah, I don't think it was hard, and hopefully they'll be visiting us soon.
Man, one thing that I really think is so dope is y'all had so much preparation. It was kind of like seminary for missionaries or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really what it seemed like, because like they didn't like send y'all, or y'all didn't go on your own and you just started like preaching the gospel to people.
Yeah, on the street.
But typically that's what we do. We feel convicted by the Lord, and we feel it in our spirit or whatever, and we'll go and preach the gospel to a random guy at the gas station, not even taking time to get to know him, know his lifestyle, know what he's been through. I mean, et cetera, et cetera. And y'all got to emulate, in a sense, a lot of the different things that y'all are walking through now overseas, and y'all were prepared. And you're still, even though you're there, you're still preparing because you're learning the language as you go. And, as far as I know, they ain't nobody put you in a pulpit yet to really start preaching yet. I'm sure that's coming soon, but you're doing more learning about the people than sharing the gospel with them, to trying to convince them, convert them, what have you. You're building trust, building relationships. And I just think it's very cool how y'all are allowing God to utilize y'all in such a humble way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I think that there's an urgency to share the gospel. And I would be lying to you if I didn't say that there's times that I wake up and I'm like, man, I could have shared the gospel with this person, or missed opportunities. And I get down on myself. But then we look at biblical characters. Jesus spent 31 years before he started his ministry or whatever, before he actually started doing stuff.
Yeah.
Paul, when he got converted, it said that he spent many years before he even did anything.
Yeah, like 13 years.
So
yeah.
So you look at that and you question God. Was Jesus wasting time? Why wasn't he sharing when he was 15, 16? I think the right word is humility and a posture of learning, and just trusting that God's in control. We say that he's in control, but we often want to take the lead.
And it depends on the context too. Like, we have friends who are doing the same kind of work as us in India.
Yeah.
And they can walk out into the street and just start sharing, like y'all mentioned, and so much fruit.
See fruit.
But it's like, that's their culture, a different religion. Here in Thailand, the soil is really tough.
It's hard.
It takes years of relationship. The few Christian believers we know who are Thai said that they were like walking with Christians for 6-10 years before they believed,
Wow.
And so it is just like the expectations too, not wanting to set ourselves up to feel disappointed,
Yeah. I mean, that's great. I think, just cultures are different, and God works different with different people, and trusting that, again, he's in control. Yeah, we're part of a fellowship where led by a Thai believer, and he brings in non-believers and he just shares with them, and they've been doing that for 3 years and nobody has believed yet.
Really? But they keep coming? The same people?
Yeah, the same people that keep coming. And so
it's just like so out of their framework. There's so much to understand and comprehend. Whereas like in America, you've probably heard about Jesus. So it's like, if I'm going to become a Christian, it might not take as long to come around to. But here they're like, who's Jesus? Who's God? How does this work? What?
Yeah. So
what is the primary? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, well, it's a predominantly Buddhist, but
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask.
yeah. And so in India, for example, there's a lot of people who are professing faith. I mean, like what Spoon said, you just share the gospel once and they're like, yes, I want to follow him. But that's because they already have even an idea. They accept Jesus as a God. You know, he's part of their 1 billion gods. So for them, that's not hard. But now it's like understanding that he's the only God, the only true God. So then you get into a discipleship with them. So it becomes different. But here it's like they don't accept, you know.
Yeah.
Like what is
it's
God?
Like who is Jesus? You know, who is this God?
Yeah.
So just different cultures take different things, and
because like that's a very like interesting thing for me, because whenever I was a kid, I used to think that, well, everybody's heard of Jesus,
right? But
y'all are in an environment where there are people who have never heard of Jesus ever.
Like that's mind blowing to me.
And that's a I would say a westernized misconception that everybody has heard of Jesus. And I'm pretty sure you know what the stat is, but there are certain amount of people who live and die and have never heard of Jesus.
Yeah.
1/3% of the world.
1/3 of the world.
A third of the world have never heard of Jesus. And there are people who may have had an opportunity to profess their faith to them and didn't. Or maybe people who were supposed to go on mission trips and didn't listen to the conviction of the Holy Spirit and missed an opportunity to profess the gospel to whoever it was that never heard of Jesus. So the fact that y'all are on that track, I'm like,
I want to be like them when I grow up.
I want to be like Katie and Dro when I grow up.
Yeah, I do.
No, I used to think, like, I never heard about missionaries really growing up, but when I did, I assumed they must be really elite Christians, you know, like these spiritual people. I was like, that would never be me, you know?
Yeah.
And then the more we got into it, it's like it was just a conviction that 1/3 of the world has never heard the name of Jesus. And so that doesn't compete with like ministry in America. I think that's important too.
Yeah.
But our conviction was just like, okay, well, like we don't have a lot to leave behind. Let's just go be people who do that somewhere else. Yeah. So it's like, we're not extra spiritual. We're not extra special.
I wish we were.
Yeah. I used to think maybe I would be when I got here even. And now I'm like, dang, some days I still wake up and don't want to read my Bible. I thought it would be easier here, you know? It's like, it's the same.
The same fight. Yeah.
That's so real. I appreciate you sharing that, because I have that same misconception too about missionaries.
Yeah.
So
they're ordinary people.
Yeah.
Some ratchet, sinful people.
If this guy can make it, I mean, I'm just kidding.
That's true.
What has been, so this is my twofold question, the one that I was like, it's like 2 in 1. What has been and I lost it.
Did you lose both or just one?
1.5 actually. I'm gonna fumble and find it.
Okay.
Y'all just ride with me, okay?
Gotcha.
What has been the most rewarding in this experience? And this could be like personal or marriage. And it could be like, you know, as a group or individual. And what has been the hardest thing? I think that wasn't the word, but that's the only thing I can come up with.
Being overseas, you're talking? Are you referring to like us being overseas?
Yes.
Or doing work? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have mine. Do you have yours? Yeah. I think we have different answers probably. The most rewarding easily is our relationship, I think. That's been the most rewarding. I think we never worked together before this. So, you know, she went to her 9 to 5, I went to whatever it wasn't 9 to 5, but it was weird. But we went our own ways every morning, you know, to work, and then we got together in the evenings and, you know, had a meal, whatever, date night. But now we do everything together. I mean, every meal, every fun activity, you know, school,
we should
sharing.
Be so intentional if we want to have alone time.
Yeah.
He's like,
we
I need time.
We have time where we're like, actually, I'm going somewhere else right now. But coming in, I'll be lying if I said I wasn't like nervous, but I was like, I wonder how that's going to be. You know, I've never spent this much time with my wife, but it's been super sweet. And I think it's allowed us to communicate better and just like understand each other better and learn from each other better. than ever, because naturally we're put in an environment where we're together. We can't avoid that. So it's like either we make it work or we burn down. And I think we've made it work, and that's been really rewarding. We've had friends come over and who are also missionaries, and they're like, "Dude, y'all's communication is on point." And I'm like, I appreciate you saying that, because it doesn't feel like it all the time. But
we used to sit on a conflict for days. Now it's like 30 minutes, like we're over it. You know, we're past it.
Yeah, quicker to give grace to each other and just understand each other. So I would say that's the most rewarding. The hardest thing about living overseas for me has been missing like friends and moments. Like, you know, I think I've missed a lot of weddings, people having kids, not getting to meet their kids, deepening the friendships, like all that I miss. And just because of, you know, time, like as much as intentional as we can be, even getting to do this right now, like you still don't get to do this often enough to where it continues to deepen and deepen in an intentional way. It's just really hard. So I miss that. My family, obviously, and they often ask me, "Oh, what do you miss most about America?" And I would say my friends, family, and food. But so that would be for me.
Ain't got no fajitas out there.
Ain't no good fajitas.
There's one good Mexican restaurant.
There's one kind of good.
I would say the biggest challenge for me has been loneliness. I knew what I was getting myself into. Our team is just our leaders and their family, and then us. We're having new teammates join us this month, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll change, but I think I just wasn't expecting just the isolation. It feels like nobody sees what we do. I mean, I've got Dro, which is amazing. Couldn't do it without him. But it's like, I miss like having girlfriends, you know, and even as I make Thai friends, it's like, they're not that deep yet, or there's still a language barrier. And so I just miss like the community that we had before. And so I felt lonely at times. And I think like too, just to be honest, I think like there's been aspects of like spiritual warfare that come with doing this kind of work, or when we see fruit, we can also see just attacks of the enemy. Like I went through probably like a month of just like doubt, which I've never experienced before, just like as I read scripture and stuff. Thankfully, like the Lord has brought me out of that, but I just like wasn't expecting like those kind of things, especially so early on. And so those have been some of the challenges. But on the other hand, like what's been rewarding is seeing the Lord answer prayers that I've prayed even before we ever moved. Like from the day I knew we were going to be going to Thailand, I started praying that like God would provide a friend for me, like a girl who would just take me under her wing and help me learn about Thai culture and language, and that I'd be able to share with. And he provided that friend, and it was so, she's moved now, but it was so sweet and just a tangible answer to prayer. And so that's just like one of many things that we can look back on and see we've prayed for this specifically and God has come through. And so I think every day is just kind of a roller coaster of like, this is hard, but this is sweet, and there's good days and there's bad days, but overall, like we see like the Lord's faithfulness in it.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for opening up and sharing that. I think that's, you know, like sometimes we can sugarcoat because God is faithful and he is perfect and he does provide. And so we can, as believers, sometimes we can just say like, oh, it's so good, you know, and just kind of leave it out because we're living by faith, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, we are human and we do experience real emotions and we do experience spiritual warfare. And so and the word says that we overcome not just by the blood of the Lamb, but also by the word of our testimony. And so you sharing, when we share, like when things are hard, that is encouraging. That is helpful. You know what I mean? Because I'm not staying down there. I'm not saying like, you know, I'm in this pit, come in the pit with me. Right. But, you know, I just really appreciate you sharing that. And even though there are women that are going to hear this that are not overseas, they can still relate to that. Like I can relate to that as a mom coming out of postpartum, like, and, you know, being a stay-at-home mom, like I get that. And I can't imagine, being overseas, a completely different culture, doing what you want to do, having the man of your dreams, but like still missing, still missing, that piece of home. Like, someone to get your nails done with, like somebody to just like sit and talk or watch a girl show with, or, like talk about hair with. Like, I know Pedro's a great listener, but there's some things, it's like he doesn't know what new conditioner to try. He doesn't know, like, OPI's new nail color. Like, but I believe that God is going to send you that person. And I'm excited to hear like when those things that are hard become, when you're like, this is how we got through that, like this is the testimony, the other side of that.
Yeah. Whenever you mention that spiritual warfare thing, that's a buzzword for us believers. We're like, oh, spiritual warfare, Ephesians, put on the full armor. No, I'm just kidding. But that is such a real thing, and it hits differently, especially when you're in different regions, different cultures. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the way that it hits you there may not necessarily been the same way it could have potentially hit you here in America. And a lot of people ain't that deep. They don't really get that stuff. How, we can run into, or spiritual warfare can sometimes come upon us, not just because of who we are, but where we are and what we're doing. And ironically, doubt hits you while learning a new language.
And in a culture that's not as receptive to the gospel.
Right. So, and the fact that you were still able to, rely on the Lord to help bring you out of it, and Pedro being there to support you. I mean, yeah, you pretty dope. You're in spiritual warfare and you won. So
let's go.
I think that's dope.
Yeah.
So kind of sort of shifting gears just a tad, still staying in the whole cultural thing. So how did Pedro, being a Hispanic guy from America, married Caucasian woman, living now in Thailand? That's a whole lot of cultural stuff going on right there. So like, how are y'all able to allow those things to like kind of mix and mesh well? Because that's a lot of cultures on top of cultures into a whole nother culture that neither one of y'all know anything about.
Sure. I think we're going to be okay at the end of it. I think our kids are going to be more confused when they're born. Yeah, I mean, that's actually a great question that we've actually spent some time and shed a few tears over, and got to it has its challenges of trying to understand, because we are trying to love and understand each other's culture already, as a married couple, because I don't have the whole, background, Scottish, English background, American culture figured out, and she doesn't have the entire, Mexican culture figured out. So there's still a lot of figuring out that we're doing. Yeah. And so while we're learning a whole nother culture, trying to wrap my head around it myself. I think we're doing good now, but we're learning. Yeah, I don't even know what I want to say.
I mean, we also live in a city that's very touristy. There's lots of people from all over the world. And so I don't know that we feel like we stand out, especially. I think we feel comfortable to be, I know this is a question for him, but he's been able to express his culture and where he comes from, and celebrate that with people. People are very curious about where he comes from.
They don't see a lot of Mexicans out here.
We actually have 2 new Mexicans in our class that started yesterday. And so that was just kind of a gift, honestly, so he can keep practicing Spanish. But yeah, I think the harder thing will come when we have kids and wanting them to know Spanish and know their heritage. And obviously they'll know English, but then it's like, we would like them to know Thai. And so I think it's a learning process, and we'll figure it out in the future. But
I think the biggest thing that I've learned I think for me, being already like a second culture, by that I mean I was a Mexican who grew up in America. So I already had a second culture in my books. So then transitioning overseas has made it, I think, easier than most Americans, I would say. Why? Because I've already been through that transitioning phase of learning a new culture, of even learning a new language. Yes, age was a little different, but I think I've done that. So I would even say a lot to the listeners who are of like second culture, whatever that is. If I would encourage you, if there is like a desire for missions, like I think we get to play. I'm not gonna say like a bigger role, but I think it's easier for us. And I don't say that because we're better, but I say that because I think we have cultural transitional in our books already, where we can adapt easier. And outside, I always say this, and I think Katie is starting to see it, but I always say that the only culture that's different, really, really different, obviously there's differences in all the cultures, but it's America.
Yeah.
I think the rest of the world has more in common.
Like everywhere we go, he'll be like, "This kind of looks like Mexico." I'm like, "We're literally in Thailand."
Yep.
And he's like, "I know, but it just gives me like Mexico vibes."
Like, I really believe that
it's not America.
Yeah, and I stand by that. I think that the rest of the cultures have a lot more in common. I mean, you go to the Middle East, they eat with seasonings that are very close to, and starchy diet. You go to Asia, a lot of spices and peppers, and like I just feel like there's a lot in common for the rest of the world. And then you go to America, and it's like chicken nuggets and French fries. So just I think cultures outside of America, I think, have a lot more in common. Personally, I believe that, and I say that jokingly, but kind of serious. So I think it makes it easier for me than most Americans. And as far as like our transition, though, I think we've had a very healthy and easier transition than a lot of people. We have friends who have struggled the first couple of months, and it's really hard for them.
Like culture
shock, and even learning the language for us has been really fast transition, but I think it's been really sweet. And I think not because we're better. I think our culture is just a little easier to handle, given that it's touristy. So there's like a lot. Her mom often asks like, "Hey, can I send y'all a care package? Do y'all need anything?" We're like, honestly, we can find anything here. Just about. It might be bootleg, but we can find it. So yeah, I think we're okay, and we've transitioned well.
I love that.
I don't know if that answered your question, but
no, it did.
I think it did.
It definitely did, because you got culture on culture on culture.
Oh my gosh.
Know like 3 languages. You do.
It's impressive.
3 languages. I mean, that's dope.
Yeah, that is very impressive.
I would say 3 right now.
2.5. I give you 2.5. Will you take
2.5?
All right, cool. 2.5.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know y'all have like a busy day ahead, so we're gonna start wrapping up. But can y'all share personally your favorite thing about Thailand? Okay, so I have 2 questions. Sorry, that's my brain. Favorite thing about Thailand, and is there another country in the future? Possibly, maybe.
Oh, that's funny. Your favorite thing?
My favorite thing about Thailand is it's just like such a relaxed place to live. People here say sabai sabai, which basically means like just like chill, take it easy. Like you think of like a big Asian city, you imagine like traffic and horns honking. It's like people don't honk their car horns here because it's too aggressive. It's like people are just like so chill. They value like being quiet and respectful, which I just appreciate. Thai people are friendly, and although it's kind of hard to like make friends with them, once you do, they're so loyal and generous. So those are my favorite things about Thailand.
I actually was going to say same, the culture here. To add to that, I think specifically to Chiang Mai, to our city. So I think she specified Thailand as a whole. I think very loyal, very like chill. They don't loud people is like, they're like, why are you being
I
loud?
gotta tell him to.
Yeah,
I was
have
gonna say
to.
that's you.
Right.
I know, and I'm learning. I'm like, okay, I need to chill out.
He's changed.
It's just not. Yeah, my sister Diana wouldn't make it here. She would
No,
die.
she wouldn't. She wouldn't.
She
But
wouldn't.
yeah. So, but on top of that, specifically to Chiang Mai is like a cool hip place. By that, I don't mean like, smoking weed. Though weed is legal here, by the way. But I don't mean that. I mean like hip, as in like there's like a lot of young crowd, and they're like coffee like fanatics, like tattoos. So like the culture here is very relatable to me. So like I like love that. Like you see a lot of Thai people that are like tatted up. Like I'm talking about neck all the way down.
Like the new generation.
Like new generation.
Really?
Yeah. There's like probably, I mean, I not exaggerating, probably like 2,000 coffee shops here. And their coffee is like legit all the way around. And I love coffee. I mean, literally coffee is my energy every day. I love it. So I think that specifically to Chiang Mai, I love and appreciate. But yeah, and then what was your other question?
Is there another country in the future, do you think?
Sorry, yeah, go ahead. Somebody rang our doorbell.
Oh.
Another few, not in the foreseeable future. By that I mean like not anytime in the next year or two.
Right.
I would say our team leaders say that we've adopted this from them, or I have. I don't think Katie has adopted it necessarily, but of looking at things from a 7-year standpoint. So we've talked about we'll commit at least 7 years of Chiang Mai. Why 7? There's no specific reason why. We do know that on average, what's the average of years before you start seeing ministry? I blanked on it. It's like 7 years before you start seeing fruit
of your labor.
So, which is why I think that actually that's probably why they said 7 too. So I think we'll be here. We want to be here long term if God wills it and visa allows it, because visas are hard. We will be here long term. And as far as going somewhere else, we don't know. I'm sold on long term. I think that is the most strategic. Personally, I believe that most strategic way to reach people is you embed yourself in those people by becoming like them. Like I genuinely, when I was support racing, I would tell this to people that I was meeting with, and I believe it and meant it, that I want down the line, 10, 15 years down the line, to people to look at me and think I'm Thai because of my fluency in Thai and just I'm cultured like them. Not because I love Thai culture and want to be Thai, but because I want to care for them here in Thailand. There's been missionaries here for over 200 years and it's still considered unreached. So that should tell you something on how,
less than 1% Christian.
Less than 1% Christian. And there's been workers here for over 200 years. So yeah, I want to invest. I say I mean, obviously the Lord can change us, and we said that one day we'll probably end up in China, but China is not off the radar right now.
The missionary lifestyle is very like, you've got to be open-handed. There's many people that go from country to country because their country becomes unsafe, or you can't get a visa, or there's an opportunity. So we try to always have that perspective, because my instinct and desire is to like plant roots, but it's like I'm scared to like buy furniture for our house here, because I'm like, what if we get kicked out in a year? I don't know. So
this is very true.
Just always having open hands, I think, is important.
Wow. Y'all are like really like about this life. Like this isn't like a cute like, oh yeah, like we are married, newlyweds, and like we're serving Jesus, check us out. Like y'all are like not like
we are
like years. We're planting roots. We're thinking long term, and you don't see that in our generation. You know what I mean? Like we're ready to jump to the next thing. We'll do it for a little while, but like we're always thinking ahead, and we always have a plan, and so to hear that is really a blessing, and a testament of y'all's faith. And I'm excited for y'all, man. Like I really, really am. I Jasmine could not do it. The Lord didn't convict me in that area. The Lord didn't tell your girl to go do that. And I'm very grateful. I will support those that he has called. But they're like, I genuinely say that, like, I'm not built naturally to be submerged in another culture like that for years. Like, it would be like, you know how y'all are talking about how it's been a sweet transition and all that? Like, your girl would be stressed, you know, like my hair alone. Like, it would just be a mess. And so I really admire what y'all are doing. I would love to visit. You know, I can definitely and visit. But I'm through. Really? Do y'all have time? Do y'all have time for visitors? Like,
yes.
Maybe not this summer, but
we will make time. We have. I mean, our schedule is super flexible because we're learning language.
It's so cheap to live here or to visit. Like, the flights are expensive, but once you're here, you'll spend nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you spent it all on the flight.
Yeah, no. I was going to say, you know, we definitely want to come, but finances are not permitting us to come and visit this year. But since we know y'all going to be there for a while, we have time to plan.
Yeah. No, seriously, y'all should plan a trip.
You did look.
I looked at flights.
Yeah, we did.
I looked.
It looked like, but that was like weeks ago.
Nah, it was a couple months ago. I looked.
Yeah, I remember we just got a little fire under our butt, you know, and it was like, let's see, and it was like, ooh, I'm gonna be in Texas, so
like, man, that's a couple mortgage payments.
Yeah, for real. They are low, but if it's helpful, that is the only thing that you'll probably spend a lot of money on.
That's good to know.
Yeah, housing, we will host y'all. We would love to host y'all as long as y'all want to stay. And then food is really inexpensive. I mean, Katie and I eat, on average, we spend maybe at $2 a person per meal.
Excuse me? What?
I told you spent it all on the flight.
Yeah, you just got to get there.
So you just got to get there, yeah.
I don't know about you, but this is my last question. Entertainment. What, like, you know, we have in America, we have like bowling and skating, you know, and amusement parks. Like, what do you guys do for entertainment?
Outside of soccer.
I mean, we go to the movies a lot.
The movies are late. They show old movies. So when Avatar 2 came out, y'all, and so they start advertising in movie theaters here. Avatar's out. So we go, we get our popcorn, we sit down, and the movie starts rolling, and we're like, we've seen this. Y'all, it was Avatar 1.
We bought tickets to Avatar 1. And Avatar 2 wasn't coming out for 2 months.
For like 2 months.
It was so embarrassing.
No, we sat through the whole movie, and
it's good. We got a refresher before we saw number 2.
And then that was probably another time we went to the movies. So movie theaters are in the malls only here. There's no like just a movie AMC 30. There ain't no AMC 30 just sitting outside. But so we went and we bought I think it was like the last showing, and we stayed there. So then we're leaving and we get out to go to the parking lot, and the elevator is just locked. The whole mall is shut down. Basically, the parking lot that we parked in, we weren't supposed to park. There's a designated. So those are just like culture. So we got locked out.
In the mall.
We had to get escorted by a security guard. It was week 2, so we didn't know anything. It was tragic.
Oh damn.
Yeah. But yeah, there's movie theaters, pools. I mean, I wouldn't say golf. Yeah, I would say most
coffee shops people hang out at.
Most things that America has entertainment-wise, you can find here.
We went rock climbing recently.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't seen a bowling alley though. Actually, now that you mention it, I'm gonna look into it. I bet there is.
There must be.
Yeah. They have all kinds of stuff. By that though, I mean it's not great quality though. I would say that it's
I picked up on that.
Yeah, it ain't bad, but it ain't like American quality.
Yeah.
The malls are really nice.
The malls are nice. So in America, like the malls are like dying down. Like a lot of people don't really go to them anymore. It's not like the go hang out, walk around for hours spot anymore. Here is still that.
Oh, yeah, because they're still showing Avatar 1.
Yeah, because they're popular. Though we're in time in the future, we're still behind culturally.
Right, exactly. I was thinking that.
So yeah, it's fun to go to the malls and like walk around. Yeah, what else
people just like everything revolves around food. People will go eat together. Street food, street markets, people walk around at and shop and stuff.
Yeah.
There's plenty to do. Yeah.
There's. Yeah.
Man. So, I know that y'all are still kind of sort of support raising and stuff, and so y'all are always looking for people, needing people to invest and stuff. So how can people do that to support y'all?
Yeah, we have a link that is directed to our organization, so you can easily access the link there. And I will even love if people want to be like receiving updates on our ministry and what we're doing in our lives. We have a link for you to join that as well. Our newsletter. We try to send monthly. So
yeah, I think people underestimate the role they can play in what we do.
Yeah.
We truly don't view it as our ministry. We have over 100 people who partner with us financially or in prayer, and it's like all of ours. And so people give $5 a month, people give $500 a month, you know, and that allows us to live and work here. And so we're grateful, and I know God is honored by anything. And so even just to have more people pray for us is helpful.
I think the role of prayer can be like cliche in America. And I say that because it could be cliche for me sometimes too. But it's important, man. I sat at a conference once from a missionary who was in Afghanistan during the whole coup or whatever happened in Afghanistan with the Taliban. And the girl was sharing her experience. And I mean, it's a conference of probably 200-300 people. And the girl is introduced and she's going to share about her experience. And the guy who introduced her said, before we do that, if you prayed for this girl, would you stand up? And again, this is a girl who has no connection to probably at least 200 out of the 300 people there, has no connection. But I mean, half the room got up that had been praying for her by name, and they never knew her. And so, but in that moment, I realized like, dang, God is like powerful and is using, and she just cried. She wept. I mean, she couldn't talk because she realized in that moment that though she didn't even know it or realize it, even the people praying probably didn't even know or realize it. Like there was power behind that. So ever since that's picture in my head, it's always there of just like the power of like people coming together and praying, even if it's just driving down the road and you throw a quick prayer at God, like he's honored by it and receives it, and we get to benefit as believers and saints of the church. So
that's a bet, man. We'll definitely have that down in our description and link and stuff, so people can support y'all, read the newsletters. I love getting the newsletters. I read them all the time. Yeah, I'm just waiting on the one where y'all sending a video of y'all speaking in Thai. I'm waiting on
we might do that next
newsletter being typed out in Thai. I probably won't know what it says, but maybe I'll have, you have an English version and a Thai version,
right.
just
or 3 years from now, the baby announcement.
Yeah, baby announcement written in Thai.
3 years. Nah, we trying to drop one like next year or something.
Okay. We'll be praying.
We're just practicing right now, but
keep practicing.
Practicing. That's what we say too.
We've been practicing too.
We be like, we're just practicing.
We're practicing too, Dro. Yes, sir. But man, we thank y'all so much for hopping on with us and just sharing y'all story and y'all's testimony. And
thank y'all for your time.
And man, what y'all are doing for the kingdom. We typically see it from the American perspective, but to see y'all take your lives and uproot your lives and everything to plant yourself somewhere that you have absolutely no roots, just for the kingdom, for sharing the gospel, it's admirable, and man, it's much appreciated because y'all are going forth and making disciples. And even though y'all ain't made none yet, you practicing, learning languages and learning cultures. So, man, I love y'all so much and have the utmost respect for y'all for what y'all are doing for the kingdom.
Yeah, so, definitely.
Man.
Thank y'all.
We appreciate y'all.
Yeah.
This has been fun.
This has been a blast. Let's do it again.
Yes, without mics next time.
Yeah. 16
or in person. Yeah, or in person.
We're praying about those plane tickets. Yeah.
Essentially. So we thank y'all. But we hope that y'all enjoy listening to Pedro and Katie
It's Silvestre.
Silvestre. I be doing
Pretty good.
Because you try to make sure you get it.
because you know
I have to be intentional to make sure I don't mess it up.
Silvestre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That you roll that.
You gotta
Yeah.
roll that thing.
Yeah.
But we thank y'all for hanging out with us, hanging out with the gang, and listening to us talk about marriage and ministry from a completely different perspective, because it's not one that we think about often.
Right.
The way that you can support Pedro and Katie, the links are down there in the description. Always, man, continue to be in prayer for them.
Yeah.
If you feel compelled to sow, please do. Know that you're sowing into good ground, and it will produce fruit. I can guarantee it.
Yeah.
Jasmine and I, we've been sowing in this ground since they've been out there, or since before they left. I don't know, one of them.
It's been, I don't know.
But
Before.
yeah, but
Yeah.
we've been seeing man, the fruits of their labor, and it's paying off. So if you do feel compelled, please do. Actually, I'm making y'all. No, I'm just playing. I ain't gonna make y'all. I know. That's what them preachers be saying. That's what them preachers be doing. They be making people give.
Leave them alone, baby. Come on. Come on back.
Come back. I'm sorry, I got off. Let me come back. But y'all be easy. Y'all take care. We love y'all. Peace.
Much love, guys. Love y'all.
Thank y'all so much for tapping in with the Left Hand Gang podcast.
Be sure to follow, like, subscribe, and rate us.
And lastly, please don't forget to check out our website. That's lefthandgang.co for merch and ways to stay connected.
Catch you next episode.
Gang.